Call the meeting to order. Item 2, roll call.
Chairperson Geigel.
Here.
Vice Chairperson Cordes.
Here.
Members Anderson. Here. Crandall.
Here.
Fortune.
Yep.
Mullen.
Yes.
Simon.
Okay, item 3, pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4, moment of reflection or prayer.
Give me 1 second.
Yep.
I can't thought. Psalm 119, 59 through 60. And let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. Amen.
Thank you. Item 5, conflict of interest.
I do not have it.
Okay. Item 6, approve agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. New business, Emily Ferris, head drama coach, Denny and Munson, co-assistant drama coach, Cassandra Lynn, co-assistant drama coach. It's just kind of an FYI, right?
Yeah, and it was, these were the applicants in the time that the job was open. It did take Lex and I some time to get together and get it sorted out. But this is the best arrangement that we recommend, and, we're agreeing with it, with sharing the co-position.
Okay, so that'll be on the consent agenda next. Okay. Item 8, approve consent agenda.
I would like to pull a couple things from the October claims. The 2022 chamber dues and the 2021-22 membership fees for economic development. I don't know if you wanna discuss those now, or
What
if
page
you
are those on?
want, those are on the second to last page. Here's the second one.
Page 5 towards the bottom.
You wanna move those to 22 and discuss them and approve it as is, so I mean, it doesn't, or we can discuss them now, I don't really care.
Need a motion for that, do we?
Well,
We've already approved it.
we already approved the agenda, so they're part of the claims, so.
Okay. So we've been chamber members in the past.
Yep, since 2004 is what I found.
So how did we end up, now we're paying an economic development fee, how did that come about?
That was honestly something I brought up. Last year, you did not see chamber dues because of COVID. As far as the chamber goes, they waived their dues for, the 2021 year. And then we got a bill for the chamber dues for this 21-22 year. I mentioned to Dr. Pittman if, it might be something that we might wanna be a part of, and that was an idea that I had because we're part of the chamber as well. And we thought as administration that would be a good membership to be on. So that's why we put it on the bills for you guys to approve.
Well, the thing of it is, you have a situation where you have two local entities that you're paying dues in, and one of them is to increase the businesses in the community. And the more sales tax that we can bring into this area, the better the relief that you're gonna see on the local landowner. And also, development started since I've been gone. But it is an organization that, I feel that we should be affiliated with because that we can stay in partnership with their goals as far as what they're developing and as far as what we're working on as well.
And another reason why I suggested it myself was we are one of the larger employers in the town. And with these two different, organizations, most businesses are part of them, so that was another reasoning that I suggested it.
But I recommend that we do join both. I
One
think we
thing
should
that-
both be involved.
Okay, but one thing that I would caution, number one is, we are funded by taxpayers, which you pointed out. The chamber is mainly for private businesses. So that's one thing that, and I'm not saying this is a lot of money, the other thing is, you have, Carolyn, you and Josh are both on that economic development, correct? So that's a conflict of interest because we're paying dues to an organization that they sit on. And I kinda think that, so you do it for these two, but that opens up the door, just like we discussed when we were talking about giving money to, like, the rodeo club. And it was stated that we probably should not do that because you're opening the doors, okay, so where do you stop? So you pay dues to this, but what else are you gonna pay dues to? So you do it for these two organizations, are you gonna do it for your AAU organizations? Are you gonna do it for your football organizations, your rodeo organizations? They're promoting athletes and students, it's the health of our students. That's why we had said we're not donating money, and that's kind of how I feel like these dues are. It's donating money to organizations that, again, we're funded by taxpayers, and I don't think that's something that we should be doing.
Well, I guess you say conflict of interest. I was serving on the school board before I got off that board. And I guess we're a small community. I mean, we need to serve as much as we can on some of these things. And I really serve it more in the city capacity because I do the financials for them and that kind of thing. So I guess I don't really feel it's a conflict of interest.
But do you get where this is a private organization and it should be funded by, if people choose to do this? You're taking taxpayer money where people don't, and I know this personally, there's a lot of people in our community who do not agree with economic development. You're taking their taxpayer funds and you're putting it to an organization they don't agree with.
But what
The
about
chamber-
those that do feel it's helpful?
Then they can go donate their own money to it.
But how are they different than the ones that don't agree versus the ones that agree? What makes the ones that don't agree prioritize over those that do?
Because this is a private organization. It's a
But-
private organization and we are funded by taxpayers. Taxpayer money should not be going to private organizations.
Yeah, but this is an investment to help alleviate and market our school district. Open enrollment is part of the need to market your school district. And when you're looking at economic development and what we could do for our kids so that they can best meet our local need, I think that there's some benefit that we receive in return with economic development as well as being a part of chamber that we're not gonna see when we join these other entities. And so I feel that being a part of this does match up with our marketing goal in this school district.
But this is your personal view,
That's why. and
not a
that's my recommendation.
taxpayer's view. So when we're taking tax, I get that, but you're serving in a capacity as an administrator for the school. And I'm saying, if a person wants to be a part of a private organization, then they do it privately. They don't have this choice when they pay taxes. Our taxes should be going to serve students, and I personally think where are you gonna stop? Are you gonna go give money to the parent-teacher organizations? Are you gonna go give money, just like I pointed out, what other organizations? You're spending $135 for these organization membership dues. Okay, you just opened the door. What other organizations are you gonna go give money to? And 2 of you sit on the board.
Which we go off this year.
But that's my point. Do you see how other people look at this, and it is a conflict of interest?
Is NAPIS part of the organization?
Yes.
And we're part of that organization, and it benefits us in the school district.
Funding wise, you get federal funding.
Potentially though, if we receive more, if these organizations recruit families here who have children, that equals dollars for
I
our
agree,
district.
but it's an if.
Same thing as NAPIS though. We get over $600,000 being part of NAPIS.
But that's federal funding. That's completely different than what you're talking about, economic development. Economic development, in some people's point of view, has caused our community problems. We've spent a lot of money because of some of those actions, whether we like it or not.
I guess this is on you as a board, you heard our opinion, so.
You know if other districts have, are other districts a member of the chamber?
When I was in Washington Springs, we paid chamber and development dues and I was off the board. Because chamber and development was in direct connection with the school district because they were the biggest employer and had the biggest economic impact on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see where they work together, hand in hand, I guess, in this situation. It's a good idea.
So is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 9, open forum. Sign in.
First.
Okay. Okay, so for those, just public forum or open forum, whatever, it's called one thing on this, another on our agenda, okay? Open forum, we usually give the speaker 3 minutes. The item they speak about can't be voted on tonight. It's not an agenda item. And try to not use any person's names or all that good stuff, so, go ahead, Lynn.
Okay, thank you to the school board and administration for allowing me a few minutes to speak tonight. Thanks also, I wanna just take this time, for me personally, thank you guys for the bonuses we received in September. It meant a lot, and the extra money going into the fall really helped, but just to be recognized for our efforts really was nice too. I'm here tonight regarding the dishwashing position in our district. Last Friday, I believe you received an email from Dr. Pittman regarding the opening and some thoughts I had regarding it. Tonight, there are a couple of things I'd like to throw out there. One being this position, I would like to see reclassified, so it's not an area of the paraprofessionals together with that. I understand it was probably put in this area because of the amount of hours. It's limited to 20 hours a week, and it's an hourly wage. I understand that, but for the amount of hours, the work that's put in that 5 hours a day is more of a custodial nature. So I was hoping that it could be reclassified over towards the custodians. That being said, I'm in favor of actually creating a new position between that of the dishwasher and the custodians, in which we'd be able to have the new hire work in the kitchen as needed, the 20 hours that we would need, and then they would be able to serve as needed on the custodial side of things too. Meaning, for instance, Kim has to be gone for a surgery soon. If somebody has to be gone, then the substitute would come in and work after the dishwashing was done for the day. It would allow an extra hand for custodians, to help with subs or whatever Chris would need them to do. I think it's an option worth exploring to create this position. I think that it would be a position, of course, be over 20 hours. Benefits would have to be offered, but I really think it would be justifiable in looking at creating something like that. This current climate of our nation and the city of Wall, right now, we are in a really, really bad shortage of workers. I think it benefits, the benefits would provide a draw, I think, to the position to get somebody in here, not only to help with our current sub situation, which is very nil, and help with the dishwashing position too. So again, I request you to go over the justification I sent to Dr. Pittman last Friday, if you've not already seen it, regarding the position in the kitchen. I'm also concerned in looking at the two closest schools, and I printed them off here. If anybody wants to look at them, I can leave them. In looking at their hourly rates, as well as our community shortage of employees, that we may not be as competitive in our wages as we should be. And this could be part of the reason for our sub shortage, which is, it's really hard right now. And I just speaking from my position, I can't speak to anybody else, but for us, I'm still looking for somebody to be here tomorrow morning. And that's where we're at. And so I'm concerned if these positions and wages aren't looked at and aren't adjusted, we run the risk of losing quality employees to businesses in town who pay wages that are more competitive. And like I say, it's a town problem. I mean, people aren't gonna drive to other districts maybe to work, but I do have these, and I highlighted the wages for subs, the different positions, and you can look at those on public forums too, but if you guys would like them, I can leave them, and you can look, the one being Hockin County School District's 30 miles one way, the other New Underwood School District's 30 miles the other way. So thank you for your time. Does anybody have any questions for me?
I'd like to look at them sometime, but I
Sure.
don't know, we can just upload them, that everybody wants to look at, maybe we could get an email or something of them or something.
I can put them on the file.
Yeah, would that work?
And
Okay,
easy, I can
perfect.
do it easily.
Thanks.
Yep, no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Rachel Kirstead, topic substitutes.
Hi, I'm Rachel Kirstead. I'm gonna piggyback off of the subs issues. I'm coming to you as a teacher. I really want to ask that we try to, I don't know, some kind of incentive for subs. In the 5 years that I've been teaching kindergarten, I've had 4 subs in my classroom, 4 different people, and only one of them is a current sub anymore. In the last 2 years, this person has been the only sub in my classroom. And the other 3 either no longer live here or they are no longer subbing. We have one person who is fantastic in the elementary and middle school, high school, which we kind of want to fight over her when we know she's going to be here, but we need more subs. And I know that's not a you problem, and I can't tell you, wasn't able to find it of what we pay, but I know Dr. Pittman said we do have some more inquiries, but it takes a lot to get someone to come in, especially in the early K1, 2. They're very needy because they're little. They don't always remember their schedule and where they're going. As Dr. Pittman, she filled in as a sub and had my class, and it was fantastic that she filled in because we needed somebody. But if last 2 weeks ago, I needed a sub and I knew I probably didn't have a chance to get somebody because the person I knew had subbed for me for the last 2 years was somewhere else. The next day I was gonna have the same sub because I also had a sick kid, but another staff member texted me first saying, I can't go in, can you help out my sub? And so I had to scramble to get someone on my family to take in my sick kid to the doctor because this person's my only sub for 2 years. And to throw someone brand new in would be a nightmare, especially during homecoming week. So I don't know if there's something we can do as a board to have an incentive for more subs to come in if we need to look at maybe what we pay, or, I don't know, just, we are so short of subs that come winter when people are sick or have appointments, golly, come spring and track starts, I don't know what we're gonna do. So that's mine, cause we're really shorthanded, pulling our paras, God bless them, they're great, but when I pull someone from a classroom that all of a sudden that para's taking over my room, it hurts first, second, third, fourth, fifth, cause now they're losing their support staff. Which is not terrible to do, but it would be nice to know we had another consistent sub that could handle everybody. So, thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Mary.
Okay, that's all we have for open forum. Item 10, surplus equipment.
We have. Okay, we've been going through all the different areas. We have some technology, outdated laptops, and some out of service equipment. We have the stationary bikes. Chris went through and, looked at all the equipment down because we're doing that move to make the wrestling room out of the cardio room. Well, this is the equipment that couldn't be fixed or maybe still works, but has some broken pieces of it that could cause a hazard to someone. And, the equipment that does still work, we are going to either put it into the weight room or store it in the science room while the gymnastics and the drama, materials are out of there. In addition, we have, let's see here, special education materials that are no longer needed. And spin bikes are not like that. Okay. We have the spin bikes as well as the skid steer, and when I met with facilities and buildings committee, they accepted the $25,000 or $24,000 value of it that Jenner put placed on it.
For the minimum.
Yeah. So we go out to bid on that, but surplus and go out to get right?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
We need to approve motion.
I make a motion to approve, surplus equipment.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries.
And so we advertise that skid steer and request bids. What timeline would you like? Month?
Yeah, right
Next board meeting we open up,
Enough.
okay.
Right.
And that surplus list is in the board files if you wanna go back and look at it, get your own computer or something.
So how's that work when you have a minimum, like when they do the appraisal on it, then if the bids don't come in at, say, 24,000, is that what, do we hold it then, or is that a minimum we have to reach? Do we know?
I think we were saying we weren't gonna take less than 24, because
Okay,
there might,
yeah.
because I guess that's an assumption, because then we might,
Yep.
Just hold on
Sell
to
it.
it or.
Sell it to-
Sell it to.
right, yeah, that's
Okay,
what I was
yeah, that
saying.
makes
Yeah.
sense, yeah.
Okay.
Sell it to Jenner or dealership.
Yeah.
You might have to come back,
Right.
but I think that's how the assumption was.
Mhm.
Item 11, employee bonus discussion. What we got there, Michael?
Yeah,
If you're okay with that.
Yeah, no.
As one of our staff discussed, all the employees were given a $1,500, excuse me, not all of our employees, but majority of our employees were given a $1,500 bonus. However, that did not include, administration and our new staff. When I was working on payroll, I noticed that when looking back at minutes to see who the board decided to give the bonus to, it did not include an open session administration. So that was decided, I called some of you individually and asked, your thoughts, and that was asked to be put on the board agenda to include that $1,500, bonus in open session, so it was approved for, our citizens to see. What I would like to recommend as well, I did budget, the $1,500 bonus for all positions. However, some of those positions have new staff. So there are 5 positions that have new staff members in those positions that did not receive that $1,500 bonus as well. I would like to recommend to give that $1,500 bonus to those staff as well, if you so choose or agree. As we've discussed earlier in this meeting, that staffing in law is pretty hard right now, and I feel like this would be a good bonus to keep those people within the position and the morale up. But I would be open to any questions.
Just for me personally, when you brought that up, you know, we were all part of that when we all visited about it. I don't know where, and it's nothing against the new people, but like Lynn said, thank you. It gave us kind of a, you know, acknowledgement or whatever. And not to not acknowledge the new people, but I mean, these guys have been working here and they knew they were gonna get it. That was part of it. And it's, like I said, nothing against the new people. I mean, unless you're giving them a sign-on bonus, we never agreed to pay these new people that, and then are they gonna stay, and then we gave them.
I understand that, and that's.
So that kind of bothers me that would even just be kind of expected, if that makes sense, because it's
yeah,
not a
and that's-
sign-on bonus.
I understand.
I like
and-
recognizing
and
people
that's where it becomes in question or controversial or whatever. And the reason I was looking into this is because of how I got in to find out that administration bonus was not in open session, was because to see how the minutes read for the bonus for employees, and the minutes read that were approved for all employees in the September school, or the September payroll. And so, and that's, again, can be comprehended in different ways. If, to me, and my assumption, when that was passed, and this is my personal assumption as a business manager and working in HR, that you approved that bonus to all positions, including regardless if they were here or not, or returning or not. And that was my assumption, and just, that was my assumption. So that's why I am recommending that, and all but one of those positions was budgeted for that $1,500 bonus. The one position that was not was our big white pair position. It was not in the budget, but.
How many additional bonuses are you talking?
So for new employees that are new employees, it's 5, and then for returning admin, it's 2.
So that's,
I can see Tommy's point, maybe, is there a way to give it out at the end of the year?
I mean, you can, that would be fine.
like maybe to the new ones or something. Yeah, cause that's $10,500, you know? That was,
Just,
Was that ESSER money we used, or what
That
was
was
that?
CARES Act money. We received $138,000 that hasn't been used specifically for that.
Couldn't we take it and say, okay, June 30th, if these people are going to be coming in the next year, then pay them, versus just saying, here's $1,500 just cause you're here? I mean,
I agree with that, cause like even they should be in HR in perspective, like I said, unless you're giving them a sign-on bonus.
Well, and it could be considered a sign-on bonus.
Well, I know, but we didn't agree to that, is what I'm trying to say, I'm just
But
saying that was,
the minutes said that you did.
if you comprehend it that way, that's fine, but now we're discussing, cause that's not how I would have ever taken it, I mean, did we hire somebody and say we're gonna give you $1,500, you know?
Well, and that's
And I
the
think it-
assumption I had, I guess, because it said to all employees.
I
And
think
that,
it
and in
takes away from-
September, it's the new fiscal year, and all employees includes all employees. And that's where the assumption I got. And I'm not the only one that had that assumption, but I'm
Sure.
gonna only speak for myself.
So I like what Rich was maybe, you know, let them stay here, cause it looks like we just had one just not here. Or, you know, I mean, I think we need to,
Yeah, I mean, you could have somebody, I mean.
we just had a
like-
turnover already just last week, you know?
It could happen, I think it'd be wise and, you know, promise it to them with the renewal of a contract next year.
Yeah,
We
I think
probably,
that's good.
we could do it in the June payroll, unless you, I mean, I don't know.
Cause it's still there and it's an incentive for them, but like I said, we've already had turnover and, you know, these people, they're getting it, yeah, it's kind of an incentive, thanks guys for, you know,
I
and
want
yeah,
you,
thanks for
and
that,
this is,
so.
and I don't mean
So I
to be
agree.
combative at all with you, but I really want you guys to think about the people and not the position.
No,
If
we
that
are,
makes
and
sense.
that's why we're still giving it, that's what we're talking about.
Cause these are people that need money, that need the money.
But you're talking about COVID funds, so we received these COVID funds, and you're talking about a staff that the previous year worked through this in our school, and that's where, yeah, I understand the $1,500 bonus, but here you have new people coming on, they weren't here, so give them the year, and then say, okay, if you make it through the year,
That's, and it's, you know, that's up to you guys.
We do half now, half at the end of the year.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, could give them
And
a
also
little
wanted to
something.
comment that it was our intention for the administration, to just maybe be specific in, you know, minutes, I guess.
Yeah, for
I know administrations, you know.
So we're good on administration, we're just trying to.
Well, I think except for all the new people, I think we're talking new people, so.
Mr. Sikora
Yeah.
and Amy would deserve their 50.
And I'm fine with doing the half and half, I just think it's a little premature to give them all, you know what I'm saying, I could go with that, I mean, just cause it would help them out now and they're not feeling like they're, you know.
I think half and half's a good idea.
I'm fine with that, I just
Yep.
did a little, you know,
It gives them a little boost.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
staff
that-
is hard.
yeah.
And honestly, I mean, I talk to these people and, you
No,
know,
and I know
think
that, I get that, it was
Yeah.
nothing against, like I said,
No,
it's
I
just-
know,
I
and
mean,
I
this is
think-
$10,000
Oh, no,
over.
I agree. And
So
you
I
guys-
would go with that.
could you give them half, okay, so go
Okay.
through half the year, give them half, and then at the end of the year, give them the other half, that way you're splitting it, either half the year.
But in your motion clarified that the two administrators were gonna have to take it for one.
Yeah.
So I clarified.
Hope they stick around for the year.
Not in the motion.
You're gonna have to do a lot more to get you.
We pay the two past administrators the bonus as intended and stuff, and any new administration and staff will receive half now, half in June, or is that specific?
That's perfect.
Second.
Okay, any more discussion?
I would say it should come halfway through the year, so they work halfway through the year, they get half of it, and they get the other half at the end of the year. That's the only change that I would say to that one. So, they haven't worked here, they're new, so you work half the year, you get half the bonus, at the end of the year, you get the other half.
And
Separate payroll.
there was a
Right.
second.
We got a motion in a second, so,
Right, and I'm just discussing.
okay. Motion in a second is to pay
Half now.
half now and half in June, and the two administrators that were here last year at all 15. So everybody's clear. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, item 12, vehicle bus driver pay discussion.
When we discussed it in our administrative meeting, we, felt that it was no the discussion came up as whether we should pay a bus driver that, or somebody with a non-CDL to drive a 14-passenger bus, but I never received a justification on this, so, our recommendation is to pay, treat a coach that drives the superintendent, or drives the Suburban the same as the 14-passenger bus, which they don't get paid, it's part of their job description. unless there's any other. We just have
Currently,
a,
if they drive a Suburban, they're not getting paid as part of their job description.
correct,
But if they drive
Yeah.
a 14-passenger bus, they get paid separately.
no.
The big one.
If they drive the big bus and have a CDL, they get paid. But now we have a new piece of equipment, the 14
Oh, I see.
But you don't need a CDL for that.
We don't need a CDL for that, and some of the discussion came out from, coaches is whether or not that we should pay to drive the 14-passenger bus. I took it to the administrative meeting, and we just decided to treat it the same as if you're driving the Suburban or the Explorer. And, anyone that had an issue with it, I said, bring your justification, and I'll bring it to the board, but I didn't receive a justification,
Oh, so you're saying just treat the 14-passenger bus as if they're driving a Suburban, as part of their contract, okay. I wasn't following, sorry.
Yeah.
Do we need a motion on that, or just,
It's just a consensus, cause we're doing what, policy states, and just so, if a coach does have a CDL and they're driving to an event, they only get paid the bus time for their drive time, not the time at the event. Whereas a normal, a bus driver that's not a coach gets paid for sit time as well.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
so we're good with just a consensus?
Yeah.
Consensus? Okay. Item 13, middle school wrestling coach.
Okay, I sent out the, information or the justification on the middle school wrestling coach. We have an opportunity to have middle school, we have about 4 middle schoolers, I believe, that can start wrestling practice a couple times a week and go to, I believe, 4 wrestling matches. And there was, Mr. Heathershaw asked if we could pay for a middle school wrestling coach. It would still be, Dylan. And, I'm not sure what value you feel would be appropriate for a stipend on that either. The wrestling room, currently, the ticket room is being taken out, so there is the safety factor. And the mats will go up and they'll be ready to practice in it first part of November.
So he's gonna do this, obviously not with high school, he's gonna take a separate time.
It's,
I'm just clarifying, cause if they're just thrown in with the high schoolers, then what's the?
don't worry, I had to have this,
Okay,
okay,
yeah.
give me a timeline. In the month of November, about 4 weeks ahead or 3 weeks ahead of high school, there's the middle school wrestling. And he would coach the middle schoolers and take them to the middle school meets to compete. Then when the high school starts, it's kind of same situation like girls basketball where they could go up and compete for varsity positions or.
Well, middle
JV.
school would be done technically.
Technically, yeah.
But isn't the wrestling in Phillips starting earlier this year?
I guess we don't know.
They have the same middle school wrestling, or the middle school wrestling that we're recommending here, going on, but it's only Phillips School District was middle school wrestling and not Dakota.
Yeah, and I understand all of that, I'm not sure, I'm kind of questioning how that's going to work, just because if we're starting our high school wrestling program in November, how is that even gonna work if he's going over to Philip? That's my
I think what she's
question.
saying is there's 3 weeks before wrestling starts.
But there's not, the wrestlers start practicing.
I see.
That's my point. So if your high school wrestlers are practicing,
No,
how in
I
the
don't
world?
think they can start like November 18th, and we usually start a week or 2 later.
So we could probably clarify that he'd have.
I think as soon as
weeks or
high
something.
school starts, he's gonna go with high school, but if
Right.
And so will the middle schoolers.
Yeah,
on that.
but
So I guess if we could clarify what we're paying, the time frame, or you know what I'm saying, like is it a month or is it 2
Right.
months or so?
Or is it 2 weeks?
I think it's about a month, I guess I'm not
It's
sure.
about 4 weeks is what Lex explained to me. And they would go to the specific middle school wrestling matches. And it would be be before the high school, because I had him clarify that with me. That this is before, but yet these young men can move up with the JV and the varsity.
So what
So
sort of
you're talking-
compensation do you talk about for a month? I mean, what is he thinking here?
Per a negotiated agreement for a head middle school wrestling coach, it's 6% of whatever step he would start on, which I believe he's starting on step 1 for his high school. So, what that equals is $2,190.
Are you talking tournaments or are you talking practice? That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm
Now, here
confused.
it said, okay, practice for middle school wrestling will start October 25th and go through December 11th. We're looking at having 3 practices a day with no practice Wednesday, and going a week, and going to one
Wow, they're
tournament.
serious.
Yeah, that would be pretty.
Middle school.
And going one tournament a week. is
So
what-
the high school's first wrestling tournament is December 17th and 18th. You see what I'm
In
saying?
December 11th, they thought middle school would be done.
Right. So you're gonna, I'm
There's gonna be
saying,
some overlap.
But it's
How
over
are
a
you-
month though, October to.
right,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying that doesn't,
How much of middle school, boys basketball, girls basketball?
Oh, sorry.
It's October 25th to
That's about the same amount of time.
Around
It's
Thanksgiving
the
time.
head middle school
Right
boys
after
basketball and
Thanksgiving.
head middle school girls basketball. are the
So they
same
get a
amount.
month in advance.
That's comparable. I think that's comparable.
sorry.
I'm sorry, I think that's comparable to what middle school boys basketball, middle school girls basketball get for the same amount of time.
I'm gonna say it's gonna start this October 25th and be done about by November, cause, I mean, it'll have to be, cause he'll be busy in high school. No one else will be able to coach him. I mean, it's a short season, it's like a 6-week season.
And you said there's 4
This says
kids.
October 25th through December.
Right.
I don't think that's right.
I'm not sure.
I mean, I'm sure you
think-
could find one to go to.
But that's not to say we open up junior high wrestling. we
First
don't get
allowable high
12.
school
Well, that's
practice
just it,
is
especially
November
being
18th.
here.
Yeah.
There might be more interest.
And we usually start later than that. I don't know, what's the new, November 18th is the first high school.
Allowable day.
And we're usually 2 weeks behind that, so.
Yeah, and I thought somebody said they were gonna start earlier this year, but.
I'm
I
fine
could be
with
wrong.
it.
Yeah.
I'll just figure out when the.
Probably wanna motion on this one. Pass this around or?
Yeah,
Yeah,
go
if
ahead,
it's some-
I
Yeah.
just printed it off.
If
to-
it's-
Yeah, like Rich says, maybe if it's something crazy where he's only got them a couple weeks, they want him to prorate
Just
the
prorate
pay,
the pay as
you
a
know?
percentage of what,
Well,
what
now-
the season would be.
Yeah.
No, it's because it's a negotiated item, unfortunately, we can't adjust the pay.
Okay.
What about, have you got a consensus on how many are going out, or just 4?
Lex just told me. he's
'Cause I know I
only
had-
got 4 right now.
I had like some Union Center kids, what's this policy there? They said they would come if we had a program. Like, I think we've done it for
It would be
junior.
like, well, with junior high, you're not talking about high school activities association, so they can come and wrestle.
So I'm guessing you might get more than 4 hours systems.
Yeah, I'm really clueless.
I guess it'd be worth a try 1 year, I mean, I don't know.
Okay,
So are we doing a motion or what are we doing here?
You better have
We need
a
a motion
motion.
to, I don't know what, accept this high, middle school high school, something.
Yeah, I'll make that motion,
so,
accept.
and it's Dylan that we're not gonna advertise it, we're
advertise, yeah.
extending his to add on junior high.
The junior high wrestling program with Dylan Kessler as the coach. Paid.
according to the- There you go.
That's it.
Is there a
I'll second that.
Okay, any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 14, ASB School Board Silver Award recognition.
Here you go, congratulations for earning the points to move up. Now, you received the bronze yet last year. This year you moved up to the silver. And, so this plaque will be hung up here next to your bronze, so congratulations.
Where's our other one?
It's right around the corner.
What is it?
Okay.
I don't even remember it last year when I was here either.
I don't think it was presented last
Oh,
year.
just I've been here, this is my third year, and I don't remember seeing it.
It
so
was,
like, what-
if, school board members participate in associated school boards,
Oh.
trainings, then we get so many points for whatever training you go
And
to. And then those
I
points go
gotcha.
up to.
Yeah.
So we want a ballot, and we should have that out.
Yeah.
The paper's not here.
Well, no,
Oh,
yeah.
you better get one.
Yeah.
Put them all up.
Yeah. Should have a picture for the yearbook when we're together, so we'll have to work on that.
Okay, item 15, appoint Associated School Board South Dakota Delegate Assembly Representative.
Okay, this is in here on Friday, November 19th at 1 o'clock. I have posted on the board files, the different standings and so forth. If there's something that we wanna go through next board meeting, because of a specific interest in it, we can. But I do need to turn in, a representative for this school board. So, Elaine was our legislative candidate, but is concerned that she may not be able to.
I think we're gonna be cutting sunflowers soon.
I'm not available that day either.
This is a very good opportunity.
I've gone several times and would be willing to do it if no one else
If
wants to.
you, yeah, I'm just gonna let you two know, this is a very good opportunity. If you wanna get involved with the law portion, the legislative and so forth on, the schools, this would be a great opportunity to learn.
Well, what
Very
dates
nice.
was this now?
It's Friday the 19th at 1 o'clock in here.
Of November.
Yep.
Yeah, it's tough time. Well, yeah, down the road, I'd be interested in going to this if I'm on the board. Being so new, I don't know if I'm really, I feel a little bit,
Usually what we do is we print this out and we go over it as a board and then we talk about how you're supposed to vote. So we tell you, this is how you need to vote. And then when you go down there, I mean, they'll ask you, and you vote on it, you'll hold a little card up and it's.
Get a hard time telling them my board meeting.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I do need to check my schedule. I may be in Kentucky then, but, do we have to make a decision here today?
Yeah.
Well, for now, I can put in Carolyn's name, but if you come up and say, hey, I think
I
I
can
might.
swap, or I mean,
Yeah, and you can always
talk about it.
send two people, only one of you can be a voting member, but
Maybe it would.
Oh.
you can have several board members go, they just only have one vote.
I see.
And then in the next agenda, we will talk about the standing positions and the resolutions. I have them posted here for you to take a look at and read and, in your free time, so we can talk about it next board meeting, so. I just need a
Okay.
motion for your representative.
A motion to send Carolyn if she wants to go.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 16, architect master plan discussion / approval.
Okay. No, I'll let you guys take it, you're the building.
So the building committee met last Thursday and reviewed the ones we had at that time. I believe we got one more sent to us in the meantime. I'm drawing a blank on the name. Architect who?
JLD,
Oh, no, the one that.
Architecture Incorporated.
Architecture Incorporated.
Architecture Incorporated is who the committee recommends we hire. They've done a lot of building projects predominantly for schools. The other architects had done like hospitals or different businesses, not necessarily schools.
Local
And
schools.
local schools, they did the Kadoka gym. They're working with Press Show right now.
Here, Corey's got one, they did like Union Center. I'm just looking for some of the Sturgis Brown High School office remodel.
Here's the, South Dakota map. Pull it up.
anyway, they were within, I guess, one of my biggest things when we were presented with this is I don't have the thing in front of me, I'm gonna read out the queries if you don't mind here. But they said like with this school and with the, yeah, with the, like the concession stands and stuff, so it's just over the top on how much more it was than what was projected or whatever. And I know that can still happen, but with all their projects they've done, they're within 2% of the bid. That's in general, and it goes through and shows the percentage of change. I mean, I think that reflects at least a pretty good number on what we would be getting. Yes, could it be crazy and go way higher? I mean, absolutely, but I don't know, it's pretty solid to state that and show us the proof of it, so. I liked that, and I also like the fact that they have done some local things, projects, and they have a cost of $20,000 for a master plan, which is less than both of the other proposed, I believe I can say all that. And they also aren't gonna ask for a percentage right off the bat of if we go with somebody different from what we entail on our master plan. Other ones are saying our master plan's gonna be 24,000 and they want 5 to 8 to 9%. Sounded like regardless of even if we let them continue. That's how we gathered, so. So I know that's, I don't know if that makes sense, but that's where I came from. Or there you go, there's the.
It has a lot of schools and a lot of schools in our area. If you want to look at it.
And one thing I was gonna do, and I didn't get a chance to reach out to a couple of these people that I know that would be involved to see how their relationship was. I don't know, any of you got a chance to talk to them? I didn't know if anybody's talked to them.
Looks like they've done multiple projects. It was the same school, like, I think Harrisburg was something like 18 different projects, so I guess it tells you they must be good to work with to me.
And the I talked to Pandy about this, I was expecting for professional costs, like, services would be way more than 20,000, so I was pleasantly surprised that it was only 20,000. I mean, that's a big chunk of change, but for professional services are very expensive.
So I guess, yeah, this is to do the master plan. This is not to start any certain building. This is to get a whole general idea of where we're going whenever we decide to do it. And one other thing is those guys did some projects in phases, which we talked about, so.
So this would give us an idea of, like, they do soil tests, they would tell us where, you know, without us knowing what we necessarily want, what would a master plan kind of entail?
There's, like, I see yours,
Am I
going,
looking at it?
or it might even be on there, Candy, just kind of a
Here, I got it.
representation.
If you wanna-
I think the soil tests, I don't know, we had this discussion, I don't know, are we even doing any more of those because we have so many?
Well,
You might be required. Okay, wait a minute, it does have a page here.
This is what a master plan is, right?
Well, it's gonna, there's one that was like this, which is the way I entail this, it's just like,
building facility layout.
this is like Lyman
Okay, here it
Petrol.
goes.
It shows you this,
Yeah, that's in here somewhere.
maybe like this,
What
and
do I
then there's
got?
like one of
Page-
this, not that you don't know, where the houses and sets, that just pop the buildings here.
All right.
Well, it doesn't have a page number.
No,
It looks like page 11.
Lyman,
Yeah. It's language.
under Lyman School.
So do we give them an idea of what you think you want, and they kind of lay it out for us in a few possible scenarios? And
Yep, then we can decide whether we wanna do, landscaping projects starting this spring in a certain area and be confident that we're not gonna tear it up 5 years down the road. Or, you know, we know about how much we need to work for, so we can look at our impact aid, our capital, and, our capital outlay and so forth, and start making plans so that we can bid by bid get it built.
so we would have to be for sure on, we'll be somewhat for sure on what we want, for them to have an idea what to draw out though, I think, correct?
Correct, and that would be a process that they would look through with us as far as what we want, what our projections are and so forth.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it might not even be something that we're thinking, like we've been talking about this building in the next couple of years, you don't know.
Yeah.
But it might be something that we project in 10 years that it's gonna be a need.
Right.
that's to add to that.
We obviously just have to have a list of
Yeah.
possible ones.
Mhm.
Shane?
Yeah.
But you know, that way we can try to avoid having to dig up a electrical line and replace it in another spot because.
Mhm. Or why did we put that there, that's not gonna allow that to get very simple. Good idea, Chuck. So I don't know, I guess that's what we propose, I know to some people that sounds like a lot, I didn't think it was over an amount of money, cause I just talked percentages before, that's.
That's in ballpark of what we were talking about.
Yeah, I think so.
20 or something.
I think it could potentially save us a pile of money knowing ahead of time
Oh,
where we're trying to
absolutely.
grow. That's,
Right. And maybe like.
Over several years,
When
I
we're
mean,
talking about strategic planning, okay, we're gonna spend, you know,
Mhm.
this much each year and we're gonna do this.
Yeah, in like phases or
Right,
something.
yeah, so you have it laid out.
So I don't know if you guys have anything else to add, but that was how, what I gathered and got out of it when I was looking.
Yep. Thanks for doing the work.
Well, yeah, Andy got all that together, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Having people do that.
so, I need a motion.
I'll move we go with the architecture incorporated to do our master plan.
Second.
Need any more than that? Motion.
Okay, Lane seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Item 17, second reading of JHCD.
Okay,
Yeah.
I-
Two. Looks like. That's all one.
okay, the first two, this is our second reading, next month is the approval, the final reading. And I know that last month we brought it up that there was, concern whether we're not completely done with the decisions we're making as far as the state level. There is a bill that's gonna be proposed in this upcoming legislation that cannabis is not allowed on school property. But as of now, that law hasn't passed, and this is still yet a policy on how we're gonna handle it the moment that, like, November 18th, when they're issued cards and can utilize it.
So you're thinking, just questioning, they'll pass or whatever, not pass this bill before our next meeting? That's what I'm wondering is, are they
No,
gonna?
it's gonna go through the next legislative.
Oh, it'll go into
starting
the
in
next
January,
legislative year.
Between January and March. Okay, so this here is to protect us. We can later go back, and if the law states that we don't have, that it's not allowed on school property, we can go ahead and drop this and change it, or, you know,
But
be
we
up to
won't
date.
know until end of next legislative
Yes.
session.
This is to protect us so that when the day that they can use it, that we have the restrictions as far as where they're going to receive it, who's going to distribute it, who the identified caregiver is, and so forth. So, that was, and if you go, I do have a Wednesdays with Wade link, attached there, and it explains it much better, than what I do, but this is to protect schools the moment that it opens up. We cannot stop it as of now coming on school campus, but we can put boundaries on it. And so this is the second reading of the administration as well as the plan, which identifies the student and the caregiver and the time and place of dispensary.
So once again, this is just a reading, I had somebody ask me about this again, and I said, this is my understanding, it's a reading, because, and then there's 3 readings, but it does not mean it's implemented, and we have not said yes, so. It's just to be prepared for it, it's not that we're gonna do it, so.
So looking through these, I mean, you've got 2 forms here, and I was looking at them. The first one, it's a sample policy. This is something the state sent us, obviously. And the second form, that has to do with administration. This is part of the same plan, 2 different plans.
Okay, this is the policy of how we're gonna handle it, this is the policy that the form that needs to be filled out, that identifies the student, the caregiver, the distribution, and so forth.
So, yeah, the first one is what?
Okay, so if one person is identified as the caregiver that distributes it, the kid can't just show up with a pocket full of it.
So if they do, then it's turned over to law enforcement.
Then you broke policy and we, go through disciplinary action with administration.
Yeah, so I'm asking being, they have to be turned over if they don't have a medical card or they don't.
That'd be illegal.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, but you would see where the interaction is according to your school policy. Then, if it needs to be law enforcement brought in, it's treated like if there was a student that had a beer as opposed to a student that was intoxicated. Because then you go from
Yeah.
a illegal substance to under the influence. So that would be something that the administration would investigate and interact on.
Yeah,
I
my
know-
question was, if they have a pocket full of it, you have it, you see it, they have it, they are not allowed to have it, it'd still go back to law enforcement. That's my
Well,
question.
I could say as an administrator that dealt with cannabis, I had law enforcement come in and do the evaluation on the students because, so I could identify or be able to identify if they're under the influence of which drug it was.
Well, I think for us is what it would come to, we're probably jumping ahead of ourselves because we would set a policy in place of what we wanted done and how everything was handled, so.
Yeah, my question is,
So
let's
that's
say
what I
they-
meant, that's what would answer that, I think, though, is because it's not set yet.
if they don't have a card and they just have it,
Right.
that's my question.
It's.
I don't
Or
want
even if
kids
it's-
coming in
yeah,
and
even
saying,
if you
oh,
just
it's
have it.
legal,
Understanding
I
is
can
the
just
school
have
has
it.
The school, I
We
think,
have
watches
a
it,
policy in place for that.
right? The kid doesn't have it ever. It's
Right.
kept in the administration and.
No,
then-
we
Have
don't-
off grounds.
You don't keep, it's
No,
off
so
grounds.
that's why, yeah, it shouldn't
Yeah.
be here, so.
If somebody has it, they're not supposed to.
Yeah.
What we do depends on the situation. I don't wanna tie us down that we're gonna do this or this or this because, it's just,
Well, if they have an illegal substance, I
yeah.
feel like our
We
school
probably have to make the policy.
should not be dealing with it,
Well,
that's
we-
my question.
and what
Yeah, we do.
we
Right.
deal
Under
with
the
it.
influence and illegal substance.
We don't know,
there or-
I don't wanna commit us to saying that we'll do this for sure, that for sure.
The kid's never gonna have it on them, right? It's gonna be the caretaker that.
The caretaker is the one that brings it, and we know whether it's 10 o'clock in the morning at such and such, and it's up to the caretaker to take care of that, not us.
I gotta ask a question, this is completely just a question in theory. I've been thinking about this since this has been practically maybe gonna get implemented. What's the stipulations then when we go through this process and if we agree that yes, you can have this, we're gonna go with state law, you know? What, maybe no, I don't, what do we do for sports physicals?
Well, if they have the card that shows that they have, that this is a legal,
Substance.
now they can't smoke a joint, or it has
Well,
to
that's
be
the-
non-smokable form, so it's gonna be in a gummy.
No, I'm not saying that, I'm just saying, are we gonna let kids participate in sports if they show up in a drug?
We have kids that take other.
I didn't know if those
substances
substances show up on a drug test is what I'm trying to say, like when they go to physical. is what I'm
Well,
saying.
we don't do drug tests, so.
Yeah,
Physical, I don't think a physical, I mean.
No,
I
no,
could-
no, you guys, drug tests are completely different than what you do for physical. We don't do drug tests for physical.
Oh, I thought they did physical, give kids a drug test when they did physical.
No, that's the health and well-being.
Well, there we go, there it answers
You know,
my
I
question.
kinda like
That's
that.
old
Maybe we
school, I
should
guess.
put that in there.
But, you know, if we have someone that fails, like.
Sure, yeah, we don't have to get that deep then. I
If
just
somebody
was
goes
thinking in
in,
general, I'm
they
like,
would show a card, and when I drug tested students, and they were under prescription, I knew it,
yeah.
okay? And when you take a drug test, it's not just one drug, there's like 6 or 8
Sure.
different drugs that you're looking for.
Sure.
So, but it's
It was
a
just a
specific,
theoretical, I was like.
it's a specific test, it's different
Okay.
from a physical.
Okay. Just the randomest random thought.
Yeah, it's a different deal, but like I said, we can't control
Yep.
it coming
See what happens
on
when it
here,
goes.
cause legally they have a right, but we can't control how it's dispensed and who does it. Who does it.
And I felt like this was a decently written policy in that regard. I mean, obviously, we're talking about gummies here or whatever, and it's just of the utmost importance we keep tabs on it. And that's all we can do.
And, the next two policies that deals with homeschool students participating in activities and in connection with the school district that they identify themselves with, they can't just say, I'm gonna play football for Philip, and I'm gonna turn around and play basketball for Wall. They have to identify the school district that they're homeschooling with, and that's the district that they choose to be participating activities with.
So they have to live in the district.
They don't have to live in the district. That homeschool student can open enroll in our district.
Okay,
So,
gotcha.
this way, this South Dakota High School Activities has some control of where this student is going. And, yeah. But if they
That's why I
transfer,
was wondering, like, if you had Union Center kids come down here, then would they, if they were homeschooled, would they have to go to Sturgis? That's what I was wondering.
okay, if we had,
You're talking
yes.
Yeah, and you
that
just
too.
said open enroll, so that
Yeah.
doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Then, yeah.
You know, it's just bringing the homeschool students in on the open enrollment procedures that we have, as well as what the South Dakota High School Activities has laid out as far as what district you can play for. And your transferability from one school district to another, so they can't jump around.
Sounds good.
And again, next board meeting is when you finally approve it, so by all means, feel free to ask questions or.
I'll wait and do it the next meeting.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
And these are recommendations from the Associated School Boards and their legal counsel.
Okay. Item 18, elementary principal.
Last week we had parent-teacher conferences and we had good turnout. Some of the teachers are still doing parent-teacher conferences because of scheduling conflicts. And we typically get over 95% of our parents coming in, and we're above that threshold right now. We still have teachers who are working on getting in contact with parents. South Dakota Statewide Family Engagement Center is doing a reading activity with our first graders, and it's on the book Porter the Hoarder. And all of our first graders this year will receive a copy of Porter the Hoarder, which is written by Sean Covell, who is the producer of Napoleon Dynamite. You guys see that movie, Napoleon Dynamite?
So fast.
What's that?
Kevin said it's a waste of 60 minutes. But I liked it.
Well, a lot of people liked it too, I know, but anyway, that's gonna be on the 19th. And last year, the kids in town took part in it, and the kids out of Big White took part in it, and they enjoyed it, and I appreciate the Family Engagement Center doing that for us. And then, I'm gonna piggyback off of what you guys were just talking about with policies. Last year, we began the process of renewing our sexual harassment policy. We got our first reading done and our second reading done, but we never got our third reading done, so we have to go start over. So here's the copy. Just take one and pass it.
Did you change anything in it, or is it the same?
It's the same, and it's everything that I took from the trainings that I've had, and then I went to some colleges and some other school districts. The only change that I put in is I added the investigation part of it, and it's, and I added this on the back, it's the GBEE-E1, and these are the procedures and the questions that we will ask if we ever have to have a hearing. And that way, if I ask for instance, Carolyn comes in and I ask her questions, I have to ask the same questions that I ask Corey. That way we keep it consistent. And like last year, we were talking about setting up a consortium with other school districts to help us if there's an investigation. So if we end up getting like Edgemont and Hill City and New Underwood and Phillip and Cadoke in there, this policy may have to change so that it fits all the school districts that are in the consortium. Are there any questions on that? Or on
So
anything?
this is our first reading,
This is our first reading again. yeah.
second first reading.
What happened
Does it
with
need to
last
be
year?
put in there though, Chuck, or not?
What's that?
Does it need to be put in there for the first reading, in our agenda?
I'll put it in the minutes.
Okay, I just was checking to make sure that we didn't have to start.
And I will, note which policy.
And we caught that when I was updating our civil rights, data for the school district, and that's where I caught it, because I wanted to find out when it was approved, and we went back to the minutes, and it was approved. We had the first and second reading, but not the third.
What happened? We just got distracted.
We got distracted with other things, so. I think it was January is when it was supposed to be approved, right? And then that consortium that we're talking about is if there's a investigation, because we're a small school in Wall, we call another, somebody from another district to do the investigations so that there wouldn't be any accusations of conflict of interest. So,
Good to have both far as way as Edgemont.
I'm just looking at the small schools, with Sturgis, Spearfish, and Rapid have that big HR stuff, and those departments to do that.
It'd be nice to include as many of these small schools in this area as we can. We already meet as superintendents and business managers, well, all the administrative levels. But, you know, if Wall was playing Edgemont and Edgemont can go to Newell for whoever to investigate, and to avoid as much conflict of interest as possible.
So that if there's a big game coming up, we won't get accused of shoving it under the rug, so to speak, so. You guys have any other questions about anything else? Okay, that's all I have.
Thanks. Item 19, 6 through 12 principal report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first thing I'd like to do is I would like to recognize Kane Krogman. He has been selected as the DAR Good Citizen for the year 2021. And that was just announced earlier this week, so if you see him, you can reach out. At the high school level, we have started with our standardized testing. Today we took the PSAT, we had a small group doing that, as well as another group taking the NCRC test. And next week, all the juniors will take the ASVAB test on Tuesday. So those things have started to happen. I have a couple of things that I want to share with you about the professional development we'll be doing next week. One of the sessions that we'll be doing will be the color code writing scheme. In visiting with Chuck last spring, he was interested in finding some things to help the district with their writing scores. And so we talked about this program, and we will begin the professional development with it starting next Friday. The plan for it will be is that we will teach our language arts teachers how this process works. And then they will be coming to see you in November or December to show the process to you. But as we move through the year, they will teach the rest of the staff so that district-wide, everyone's following the same procedure when we sit down to write, whether it's an essay or a research paper. We have used this color-coded writing process in Newcastle for several years, and we've been very, very pleased with our writing scores, and I attribute it to this. One of the things that I found out, we have a lot of teachers throughout the building that give out a writing assignment, whether it be an essay.
we really don't have any idea of how it should look. And so once we understood that we were making that mistake, we had everybody doing it the same way. We actually were teaching writing from kindergarten to grade 12 exactly the same way. So I'm excited to have Kara come in next week and do that. And I would also invite anyone, if you want to come in and sit in on that, please feel free to do it. It's a very good process, and I'm excited to see how it turns out. The other thing that I've got for you, something else that is going to start next week, and in the meetings that we've had, the Relationship Smarts class is going to be piloted in our 7th hour PE class starting next week. And in the meetings that we've had, I think you guys have been close to piloting this. We've had things that have gotten in the way, COVID's gotten in the way. When we met with the gentleman a few weeks ago, he talked to us about the fact that he has this gap right here in these next few weeks. And if we could get in there, so we quickly talked with Kelly and Lex, and we got everything together, and we're going to start that with those kids next week. It is an active participation, so if a student wants to opt out, they certainly have the opportunity to do that. But it feels like you guys were right on the doorstep of trying this a couple of times, and we're going to get started with it next Monday, okay? And that's coming around as well. And then the last thing that I have for you, just in case you hear the rumors, Friday night's football game may be changing. So the weather in the field in New Underwood may not be what it needs to be. So by this time tomorrow, we should have a definite idea of what's actually going to happen. But as late as this morning, we were talking about having to find a way to change that. So the field is not in very good shape.
Like on the wall, or?
That's part of what I heard, yes. Yeah. But there's a lot of things, there are a lot of balls in the air with this, because there's also a big REA barbecue that's supposed to happen in Underwood. And so there's a lot of things going on. But I was assured this afternoon that by tomorrow, this time, there'll be an answer about what's going to happen. And so we talked to the staff a little bit, and if we have to pull it off and do it here, it'll just be all hands on deck, and we'll be ready to go. What's that?
Isn't it Underwood's last game?
Yeah. It's ours too, yeah, I was thinking about if it's their senior night, how we could do that. So if you have any questions about anything, we have
the color-coded writing.
Mm-hmm.
So you said you're gonna take your main English teachers and start with them.
Right.
And that's who will actually meet with her.
Yes.
And then the rest, and then once they've went through the process, then you'll continue on
They'll
with the
begin
rest.
to teach the rest of it.
I see, okay.
It's more of a train-the-trainer process.
Yeah.
And that's what we used in the past, and it worked very, very well. So I'm excited to try it. Switch. There's two.
Now scan these.
I'm like,
Okay, thank you.
Hey, now.
Business manager report.
Can't forget. Next month, our school board meetings will be starting at 6 o'clock, so just put that as a reminder for you guys. My audit, or the school's audit, is currently taking place right now, so hopefully within, so far so good. I haven't heard anything big come up yet, or I hope not at all, but, they'll have a report to present to the board probably within the next 2 or 3 months. And either you can choose to have them do that via Zoom, or we can have them in person, it's up to you. And just, I wanna thank you guys for the bonus for myself and for Chuck. I'll speak on behalf of him as well. We really do appreciate that. And then a thank you for you guys taking into consideration those new employees. I know, just by speaking with them personally, that they'll sure appreciate that, so, a thank you for that, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Item 21, superintendent.
Okay, thank you. And next week's in-service, the last, hour and a half, I'm going to have, we're gonna go through the strategic plan that we passed last month. And then eventually break up into 4 committees. One committee will be communications, one will be curriculum and instruction, one will be a technology committee, and, one will be a wellness committee. And with that, I've had help from administration on who put in each committee so that we have representation from all levels in this district as far as elementary, middle school, and high school. The curriculum and instruction committee will involve the comprehensive needs assessment, team, and they will be meeting tomorrow. So, they will be working through that committee. There's also some members in that committee that are, not on the comprehensive needs assessment team, but will be helping them. In the wellness committee, this is a committee that focuses on the, climate and atmosphere within students and staff. They will have an opportunity to develop an, action plan that will meet those needs. Technology committee, that will be a committee that will, their action plan will be involvement of developing a technology plan to, put together a pathway on how we want to, invest and utilize technology, within, the classroom and the curriculum. And then my other one is communications committee, and this will be a committee that is focused on different avenues of communication throughout the district, whether it be students, staff, parents, school board administration, and so forth. Just looking for ways that we can be more clear with one another. And so, after we get done going through the strategic plan, they will break off in their groups and work together on that. And then we'll be I'll be posting these action plans as they are developed, and there will be a clear timeline as we go. The NAFIS conference, I really enjoy going to Washington DC, and I recommend others go. I learned quite a bit. There is one bill that I put out there that's going through right now, that's the HR 5255. That one focuses on fully funding federal impact aid for federal lands that directly affects us. I did, impact aid has only been funding federal lands 50% over the past 20 years, and they're pushing for us to be fully funded. That is our taxes from Uncle Sam. So, I recommend getting on board with that and advocating, now, impact aid for Indian lands and so forth, that is fully funded. So we need to, really advocate for ourselves. There's also another bill that just came out, and that's the Senate Bill 2959. Boone has brought that one out, and that one's to, turn data over again this year. We'll be using the 2019 data for, our application. That doesn't impact us as much as it would for, school districts that do rely on impact aid and have a lot that, are Indian lands or military lands where there's a lot of turnover and change that have occurred over the past couple of years. I have all of them posted in the files, as well as any other information that I bring out or I find. Wednesdays with Wade, I put a recording on of that was done on a Wednesday night that you can go and watch. I recommend it. There's a lot of the legislative information going on there, but he is gonna have an in-person one in Rapid City. Wade Pogany is the one that puts it on. He is our, lobbying representative for Associated School Boards of South Dakota. And if you have any questions or so forth, you can, clarify more clearly for you. So it's up to you whether you would like to go be involved with that face-to-face in Rapid City on November 3rd, or the following Wednesday, which would be the 10th, that one would be on another Zoom that you can find, and I'll post the recording, so. Any questions on those items? Other things I have, on October 26th, we'll have the flu shot clinic, starting at 1 o'clock. And October 21st, next Thursday, we're gonna be involved with the Citywide Cleanup. We're gonna have the students, work with the city and divide up in different areas. It's gonna start at 7th period and go to the end of the day, helping clean up the town. The lower elementary will be around here on the school grounds. This is something Mr. Reitman did, years ago, and it's a good involvement for the student council and their community. The wrestling room I mentioned was almost in completion, and I reached out to neighboring school districts to see if there was any interest in board training in January, so we can split the mileage, as well as motel rooms. Hill City is the only one that got back to me. They're looking at Monday the 10th at like 4 to 6 o'clock, which, that's a Monday. Tuesday, the next day, is that evening is the Westerwood Girls Basketball Tournament. And I don't know what time that would start, but I don't know if you're interested in an afternoon training or that starts at like 1 or 2 o'clock. Would that be out, or what would you recommend coming back? That
What were the dates again, Pam?
Monday the 10th.
10
Oh, sorry.
is what Hill City is possibly looking at.
This is here.
No, that's here.
It's here.
Jim Holbeck would come here and train on board governance, and, I don't know, well, that's February. I don't know your thoughts on that, if you'd be interested in like the 11th at maybe 1 o'clock,
What month?
January. Is that,
Long as we.
Yeah,
is that a problem, or
No, it's sounds good.
then we can share motel and travel with Hill City?
1 o'clock to 10.
January. Oh, no, 11th, yeah, he's on it.
So it's January 11th in Hill City.
No, here.
Here, okay.
The 10th
He's
would be
gonna go
in Hill
there.
City, the 11th
I
would be
gotcha
here with
now.
us. And my only concern is Tuesday night is that Westerwood Girls Basketball Tournament, so. And with that, that's all I got.
I have a quick question after reading this. This youth and family services that what grades were you gonna do this with?
It's 9 through 12.
9 through 12? Reading this, I'm just wondering if we shouldn't send this out to parents.
I believe
There's a
it did
parent
go
consent
out
form.
with
Okay.
the consent forms.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think, like I said, we did this on the fly, so I believe all that went out last week.
I was just.
There's only a very small group that are able to do it. I wanna say it's like 15, 14 kids that are in that class, so it's a very small group. That was the only place that we could land at. So
Okay,
it's
but you're
a
saying
very
maybe
small
my
group.
kid isn't actually in there. Oh,
True.
that's-
Yeah,
I'm trying to defend.
it's the
defend
community
another-
health
I
class.
was gonna say, I think,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I see, it's 9
Yeah.
through 12 P.
Yeah.
Got, okay.
Yeah, it's a very small group, and that's why we decided to pilot it with them.
And you're
and
saying the
see.
parents consented.
Right.
Yeah, if they don't want them there, then
Yeah,
that's fine.
gotcha.
Anything else?
Okay, item 22, other. Okay, item 23, executive session.
Okay, I move we go to executive session for the purpose of personnel according to SDCL 1-25-2-1.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.